Good morning once again. For those of you who are meeting for the first time, thank you for joining us. My name is Susan Court. I'm a proud member of the CMN Advisory Board and also Director of Communications at JPL, and I'm really happy to be with you this morning. I want to thank you for joining us for CMN's first ever virtual Miracle Maker Summit. And we would have loved to have gathered together as we have in previous years in person, but we're so glad that you could make the time to join us remotely. We promise this will be just as engaging, as just as much fun as it was when we met in person. So thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to be in the company of so many awesome miracle makers this morning. And for those of you who are able to get up a little bit early to join us for some cocoa and some conversation, we had some great ideas coming this morning. So thank you for getting up a little extra early. Certainly some heartfelt discussions and some wonderful ideas of how to make our fundraising efforts to support CMN even more impactful moving forward, and definitely lots of great lessons learned from this last very challenging, interesting year. So thank you for joining us. So we can imagine that this pandemic has been especially difficult for you and your store associates as you've continued to provide very essential services for our communities under this immense stress of this past year, all the while constantly navigating the changing landscape of COVID-19. That said, you still all showed up in really big ways for sick and injured kids at Penn State Children's Hospital in 2020. You heard us loud and clear when we urged that kids can't wait for the health care they need, even during the pandemic. And for your awe-inspiring fundraising this past year, we are so incredibly thankful, as are our miracle kids, a few of whom you will see here, and their families. And to give credit where credit is due, we'll do a little celebrating and kudos sharing a little bit later in the program. Of course, another important happening this past year was the grand opening of the Penn State Children's Hospital Expansion Project. And to help us all learn a little bit more about this amazing project and how it will help kids and families in our community for years to come, let's now take a virtual tour of Penn State Children's Hospital, all grown up.
The expansion of the Children's Hospital is important to our community because it brings all of the services we offer under one roof. A state-of-the-art NICU, level 4, the highest level in the state, a women's and babies center that offers full range of services, additional bed capacity, and L&D rooms that offer moms the space to have their childbirth in a comfortable setting, as well as additional pediatric beds that adds to the existing complement that's in the hospital today.
The sixth floor is divided into two areas. There's women's care, labor and delivery services on one side, and then there's the new expanded pediatric surgery care unit. Is the new sixth floor area where surgical patients will be largely cohorted. And the idea is it's a welcoming environment. When they come down the hall and they see the nurse's station and they're going into their room, everything is about them and making their stay as pleasant as possible. It's unpleasant to be in a hospital. Nobody comes there because they want to. But the physical environment and the way things are set up with all the visuals are meant to be welcoming and becoming so that they have a positive experience, and also reinforcing that their child is getting the very best care here.
The idea with getting art for a children's hospital is to be able to make everybody be able to connect to some or one or a group of the pieces, feel included, feel welcome, and hopefully feel a little bit inspired and hopeful. Each floor has one feature art piece that is originally made for that floor for our hospital. The staff knows exactly what artwork that would serve them well on their unit. So we really gathered a lot of input from staff on each floor to ask them, what would you like on your unit? What will help you through your day? What will help your patients through your day? In the end, the staff, over and over again, we find is so concerned about the welfare of their patients and families that what they choose is actually something that helps their workday because it helps the patients and families.
One of the biggest things for us, and we are expanding the size of our unit. We are basically doubling the number of labor and delivery rooms that we have currently, keeping the same number of areas for our triage patients, and also having specialized place for our patients who are coming for scheduled cesarean deliveries. The rooms are huge. They are top of the line. They were designed with every bell and whistle that you could possibly want, but also trying to make sure that we are making this an experience, a birth experience for our patients that's comfortable and is welcoming and makes them want to be here. But also remembering that behind everything, that every beautiful thing that we've set out, everything has been set up such that it's safe and that we can do whatever we need to do to take care of that mom and that baby very quickly.
The nurses have had a huge role in this expansion and really in the design of the space. They've been involved in this every step of the way since the very beginning. It's been a multi-year project for us to be able to design this new space. They've helped us pick out the flooring. They've helped us pick the colors on the walls. They've helped us pick the artwork and really help redesign workflows so that we can enhance the care that we provide to our patients and families.
Our new NICU is going to be the perfect place for the baby, for the family, if that baby is sick. We are a hybrid bed NICU. We are going to have this very special small baby unit that no other hospital in the area has. We are, importantly, one floor away from labor and delivery. So we can just run down the stairs if we're needed on labor and delivery for a baby who's sick. You will be amazed at how well your baby will do when they come through our NICU.
2020 offered a lot of challenges for us in light of the pandemic, as well as trying to build an expanded children's hospital concurrently. I have to say I'm super proud of the teams, from the construction workers to the nursing staff to leadership from all aspects of the medical center, facilities teams, marketing communications. Everyone really rallied around this important project and focused on meeting the deadlines and the timelines that we set initially several years ago. And we're pleased to say that we'll be opening the Children's Hospital on time and on the schedule that was initially set, which is really exciting for patients and families in the community who won't have to wait longer to have access to our services.
That was a great way to get a sense of what that expansion is going to mean to Miracle families. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I'd like to turn things over to Liz Wilson with the CMN team to take us one step further in our learning and lead us in a little game of Penn State Children's Hospital trivia. So prizes are up for grabs, so hope you're awake. Bring your A game. Take it away, Liz.
Thanks, Susan. Good morning, everybody. So if you have another smart device available to you, you're welcome to hop on and play this game with us. So to join the game, all you have to do is open a browser. So if you have an iPad or your cell phone available, and you can type in this URL. So if anybody doesn't have their visuals right now, I'll read it out to you. So the URL is kahoot.it. So it's KAHOOT.IT. I'll say that again, kahoot.it, KAHOOT.IT. So you'll go to that URL and it'll pop up with a little screen. And in just a second, we'll give you the PIN number that you can enter to participate. And like Susan said, there are prizes up for grabs. So even if you don't know the answer, feel free to play the game. Also, you get points for answering fast. So even if you don't know the answer, if you answer quickly, that can increase your score. So once you've logged on to kahoot.it, you can type this PIN number in the box. So it is 4651338. Again, that's 4651338. And it'll ask you to put in a nickname, hopefully something we recognize. So if you win, we can get the prize to you. So type in the pin 4651338. It looks like a lot of people are hopping on, so I guess you guys are Kahoot savvy. We're gonna get started in just a couple seconds when we get a lot of people on. For this game, the first question is kind of a gimme just to practice using the website. So hopefully you'll all get the first question correct, and then we'll dive into our few questions of trivia. So hopefully this is a little fun for you this morning. Got that funky music in the background. Hopefully that'll wake you up a little bit. So Kahoot.it and the pin 4651338. All right, first question, and they're all about the expansion of the Children's Hospital. So just press the button. What year is it? That's our first question. Is it finally 2021? You've lost track, still 2020, or is it 2032? Some days it's hard to tell. All right, yes, everyone got that correct. It is 2021 finally, and we are glad that it is. All right, so the next question isn't as easy, but we'll see how everyone does. Oh, here's our leaderboard. K-Mac is number 1, Andrew Staub number 2, Mitch, you're number 3, Randy and Haley are both on the board as well. Well done, everyone. And that's just based on the speed of the answer. Okay, question 2, how many new floors were added to the existing Penn State Children's Hospital? Was it 8 floors, 5, 3, or 1? See if you can count them right there in that tiny little picture. How many floors were added? 8, 5, 3, or 1? The correct answer was 3. 3 new floors were added to the Children's Hospital. All right, our leaderboard is shifting a little bit. K-Mac is still number 1, but Haley, our CMN intern, is moved up to number 2. Jamie from 2574, you're number 3. Mitch and Kyle, you're still on the board. Things are shifting, everyone. All right, it's getting heated. Question number 3, which floor of the new Children's Hospital houses the state-of-the-art neonatal intensive care unit? And that's also known as the NICU. So which floor is the NICU on? Is it the 8th, the 7th, the 4th, or the 2nd floor? Which floor is the NICU on? And this answer was in the video. It was pretty quick, so if you were able to catch that answer, which floor is the new NICU on? All right, so the correct answer is the 8th floor. Our new NICU is on the 8th floor. All right, our leaderboard, oh, it's shifted dramatically. Jamie, you're now number 1. Jade and Mario have moved up. All right, it's getting exciting, everyone. Just a few more questions. Question number 4, the number of beds in the new NICU was increased from 42 to what number? So how many beds are there now in the NICU? 45, 50, 52, or 56? How many beds do we now have in the NICU? 45, 52, 50, or 56? Correct answer is 56, and a lot of you got it. That's congratulations. Well done, everyone. All right, our leaderboard is shifting. Jamie is still on top. Well done. Okay, this is our last question, folks. So answer quickly. When did construction on the Children's Hospital expansion project first begin? Was it fall of 2017, spring of 2018, fall of 2018, or was it spring of 2019? We know it was finished in November of last year, but when did it start? Fall of 2017, fall of 2018. Oh, we had everyone answer so quickly. Spring of 2018 was the correct answer. All right, so we're going to see how everyone fared and who our winners are. On the podium, K-Mac came in at 3rd place. Congratulations. Came in number 2 and number 1, the winner. Jamie, well done. Are we clapping? I think we were going to clap. Well done. Hopefully that was a little bit exciting. And even if you didn't get the answers correct, I hope you had a little fun doing that this morning. So thank you all for playing.
That was fun, Liz. I'm usually pretty bad at these. I overthink and then I don't buzz in quickly enough, but I actually made it to the runner-up platform. So
Well done.
this is a big day for me. Usually I'm nowhere near the board. So thanks for putting that together. And that was definitely a fun way to learn about the Children's Hospital expansion and the state-of-the-art NICU. And really the only thing to me more exciting than learning about the new world-class facility that is Penn State Children's Hospital is, of course, meeting our miracle families, the local kids that have directly benefited from all of your generosity. So it's my pleasure now to introduce to you one of those amazing kiddos, 4-year-old Joella from Lewisberry, CMN's Hershey's 2021 Miracle Child Champion. Joella's with us today, joined by her mom, Jeanette, and dad, Mario. Joella, mom and dad, thank you so much for joining us in this virtual fun and being with us early this morning. We're going to hear from Joella and her family in just a little bit, but first, let's learn about her journey at Penn State Children's Hospital. Here's Joella's story.
My baby's first car ride was in a pediatric ambulance. My baby came 30 days early and was this tiny, fragile baby that I couldn't hold for 22 days. Those 6 months were the hardest 6 months of our life. The multiple doctors, the multiple therapists, the multiple times that I thought I was going to bury my daughter. Those times were made easier because of Children's Miracle Network. And I'm forever grateful to Penn State and the doctors and surgeons. But I'm even more grateful for the funding that Children's Miracle Network provides them, that they can save children like my daughter.
Wow. Great to see you, Jeanette. Nice to meet you, Mario. I remember when I saw your family when you came to our studios at JPL to record that video, Jeanette, and it was such a pleasure to meet you and hear your story. And every time I watch that video, I get choked up. So thank you for sharing your story and for joining us today. You know, as we think back on all the wonderful things CMN has done for families, share a little bit more about Joella's story and in particular, how CMN funded resources really made a difference in her success.
Okay. It still is not easy to follow that video. And Erica always says, can you tell your story in 5 minutes after that video? And I'm like, I need 5 minutes to get myself together, let alone share my story. Without CMN, we wouldn't even be here because Joella came 30 days early, like I said in the video, and she wasn't born at Penn State. And without the pediatric ambulance, she wouldn't even be here, and that's CMN funded. The more than half of the equipment in the NICU is CMN funded. The ECMO machine that was used, the heart and lung machine, that was used during her open heart surgery to fix. She was born with, they call it vectoral association. It's a really fancy word for different genetic abnormalities, not usually seen together. So she was born with her esophagus pouched off and her stomach attached to her trachea. And no, that does not work. And she was also born with congenital heart defect. I did do the letters. She's getting old enough that she knows her story, and if I miss one, she'll tell me. Her congenital heart defect, her heart was acting like a 2-chamber heart instead of 4. So within the first about 3 hours of being at Penn State, I did. She needed emergency bedside surgery. At 7 days old, she needed emergency surgery. Well, not emergency surgery, planned 8-hour major surgery on her throat. And then at 16 weeks, she needed open heart surgery. And Children's Miracle Network paid for the ECMO machine that kept her alive while they fixed the holes in her heart. Oh goodness, if you are parents or have been around children at all, you know that from 0 to 6 months, the time that she was in the hospital, those are huge developmental milestone months. Well, she was in the hospital trying to survive. We almost lost her 3 times that she coded. And so that means like a lot of sedation, a lot of laying on your back, a lot of just trying to live. And they fund Child Life. And without Child Life, she would not be where she is either, because they would bring in mirrors, they would bring in mobiles, they would bring in musical toys, so that like her development was also taken into consideration. And as a parent, that was something that was very important to me too. Because yes, we need to keep her alive, but I didn't want her to fall behind either. They also help fund Mamaroos so that like she didn't have to be in the crib all the time. You know, like they not only worried about the medical needs, they worried about her being a kid. And without that funding, like she would not be here trying to make a phone call. Like it, and she's still benefiting from it because she still has to see a cardiologist. She still has to follow up with surgeons because of so many surgeries on her throat. She'll always have swallowing difficulties, even though she's doing really good with it. And I don't know about you, who likes to swallow barium in any instance of getting x-rays done. But she has to do that at 2, 3, 4. Child Life is down there to try to make that easier. They have toys, destruction. They have iPads. Everybody knows iPads are really not cheap. They are funded to make those x-rays and images of her throat a lot easier.
It sounds like CMN has touched your family and Joella's life in so many ways, with the very important life-saving things, but also those simple comfort items. So what a joy that CMN has been able to be a part of, not only helping save her life, but continue to support her now and your family. So we want to thank you for joining us. Is there anything that you'd like to say to all the miracle makers who are on this call with us this morning, just to encourage them to keep going?
There is, because if you had asked me in March, it'll be 5 years because she will be turning 5 on St. Patrick's Day. If you had asked me if we would be this involved in fundraising, first I would have laughed at you. But then I would have said, but I give my dollar at the register or whatever when I go shopping or go and do my things. She's fine. But that dollar or that small amount really does make a difference, because Joella is here. Because without those little dollars, they really do make a difference.
Well, we're
add up to the big thing.
We're thankful for her. We're thankful for you and your husband and your family for sharing your story. Well, she looks wonderful, and happy early birthday. And we will look forward to seeing more of your family and Joella throughout 2021. And thank you for all your help this morning. Thanks for joining us. Well, that's a wonderful story, and certainly something to motivate us all. And before we share some food for thought and best practices for the coming year, we want to take a second to recognize some CMN National Partner MVPs who went above and beyond last year to support our program. Now I'm going to turn things over to CMN Hershey's Erica Zaborni Myers now to do just that. Erica?
Thank you, Susan. Good morning, everyone. It's so great to see such a mix of awesome miracle makers on this call. I've worked with many of you personally, so this is just so great to see all of you here. So for those of you who have attended one of these summit events in the past, we always have a lot of fun each year handing out a few best practice awards to a handful of our partners. And I can tell you, each year we are always so humbled by how difficult it is to pick just 5 partners to hand awards out to. And this past year was absolutely no exception to that. You all do, whether you are highlighted for an award or not, you all do such incredible work for our program. And it just truly is an honor for myself and the whole CMN team to be able to work in your company doing great work together. So at this point, feel free to have some fun with our with the comment section, with some reaction icons, and just essentially help celebrate and congratulate all of your national partner peers for the incredible work that's happened this past year during CMN's very own Mini Streamies Awards. So our first award this morning the Miracle Milestone Award goes to our friends at Rite Aid. So if the CMN team could help me congratulate, woohoo, Rite Aid, woo! Way to go. So Rite Aid surpassed 100 million in total giving this past year, over 26 years in support of 53 Children's Miracle Network hospitals spread throughout 18 states. Included in this all-inspiring total is 7.78 million that's been contributed to Penn State Children's Hospital since our partnership began in support of research, equipment, and programs like Child Life that Jeanette talked about that was so helpful for Joella, and other programs like a Pediatric Patient Assistance Fund and medical camp scholarships. And in just 2020 alone, Rite Aid contributed $723,000 to our children's hospital in support of more future miracles for sick and injured kids. So one of those kids is Rite Aid's own Kevin Clancy from Camp Hill. He was treated back in 2008 at Penn State Children's Hospital after suffering a life-threatening brain injury from an accident on an inflatable slide. So Kevin now works for Rite Aid at their corporate office, so that things really came full circle there. And he just really enjoys sharing his story and sort of driving home why supporting CMN is so important, especially to his Rite Aid coworkers. So Rite Aid, just thank you for a phenomenal year of our partnership. What an incredible job you've done. And our next award goes to an awesome associate for Associate Leadership Award, and that goes to Leanne Flickinger with Store 1823 at the Walmart Hanover. Way to go, Leanne, woo! So Leanne led her team in raising $26,000 for Penn State Children's Hospital. That's a $16,000 increase over their efforts in 2019. And even more impressive than that is that her team raised the majority of this funding during Walmart's June and July 2020 campaign for CMN. So that's just an incredible amount of work in a short amount of time. We'll see some in the next segment, some specific examples of how Leanne led her team towards this awesome achievement. And some of those ways included tutus, social media, there was some sidewalk chalk, so we'll get to those in a second. But generally speaking, Leanne really did focus on putting creativity and fun at the forefront of her team's fundraising efforts. And she put a huge focus on sharing miracle child stories and getting her team in contact with and in connection with miracle kids. So they knew without a doubt who their fundraising was assisting and helping in their local communities. So Leanne and team, awesome job. Way to be our #1 store for Walmart this past year. And most importantly, thank you for putting the fun back in fundraising, because I know that is something we all needed a little bit more of this past year is some fun. And then our next award for highest percent increase in fundraising goes to our friends at Ace Hardware. Woohoo, Ace, way to go! There'd be so much applause if we were in person. So just imagine that there's 100 people clapping for you all. So our 20 or so Ace, local Ace hardware retailers had an awesome fundraising year for sure, thanks to a handful of really successful roundup campaigns, miracle bucket sales, which you can see here, and more. But I really wanted to give special shout outs to our Ace Hardware Retail Support Center in Fredericksburg, Lebanon County, actually just up the road from me. So Julia Jones in the HR department department there leads these fundraising efforts, along with the 600 employees at the Retail Support Center. And they went from raising about 25,000 in 2019 to almost 62,000 in this past year in 2020. And that's an astounding 140% increase, which is just phenomenal. And it happened in one of the hardest years at that. So that's just an incredible accomplishment. And it's actually part of ACE's grand total of 130,000 raised for our hospital this past year, which in and of itself was record breaking. So a large portion of these funds came from generous employee payroll deductions. And I know Julia and the team there at the Retail Support Center do a fantastic job of introducing the CMN and ACE partnership right off the bat at new employee orientation sessions. They share Miracle Child flyers, sometimes videos and things like that, but they make the partnership important from the beginning as soon as an employee is hired. I'm sure with a lot of other efforts as well, which I'll be touching base with Julia about more in 2021, but in general, just fantastic job to the ACE hardware team. And then we have a Perfect Pivot Award that we're going to be presenting to John, Pam, and the crew at the DQ Grill and Chill in York on Roosevelt Avenue. So way to go. Woohoo. Yes. Thanks, Karen, for clapping. They turned their annual Blizzard Run 5K into a virtual quarantine edition event, which raised an incredible almost $20,000. So participants registered to run the race on August 22nd at their own time and location. And then they reported their race times via email to the team at the DQ, and they were uploaded to the event website. And they did a lot of really fun things to encourage participants to share their activity on social media. So they offered a gift card drawing to participants who uploaded photos of themselves in specific categories, like most colorful outfit, craziest hair, silliest shoes. There were a lot of categories. It was so cool. And they had to post that photo with hashtag Blizzard Run 2020. And most importantly of all, why most people love to run this race is the DQ Grill and Chill still gave a free Blizzard to each participant. So really an awesome virtual event from start to finish. So just huge kudos to the DQ Grill and Chill team. And then our last award goes to our Rookie of the Year, and that is Ollie's Bargain Outlet. So way to go, Ollie's. Way to go. So we welcomed Ollie's back into the CMN Hospitals family in 2020 this past year. They had been a partner of our program in the past and stepped away to support some other amazing charities, but renewed their partnership with us in 2020, which was very exciting. And they had a great comeback campaign for sure. They raised over $15,000 in just a couple of weeks for Penn State Children's Hospital and raised a grand total of $500,000 for 78 different children's hospitals across the country. So I mean, it was a heck of a year to have a comeback campaign, Ollie's, for sure, but you really did rock it. And it was an awesome campaign, and we're just excited to see what the next year will hold. So thank you to each and every one of our award winners. Thank you to all of you for everything you did this past year. It was truly humbling to see all of your efforts and how you stepped up during a really, really difficult year for local kids. A year we certainly would have understood if you had bowed out of fundraising, but you did quite the opposite, and you were superheroes for local kids. So we're just so proud of everything you've done and look forward to the coming year. So Susan, back to you.
Thanks, Erica, and congratulations to all our winners. And thanks again to your incredible commitment in this past year. We really do appreciate all your support. We're going to now transition into the question and answer portion of this morning's program. And the CMN staff and a few special guest presenters are going to lead us in 3 brief presentations about virtual engagement for employees, the power of Roundup at the register, and how to bolster your fundraising events in a COVID world. So at the end of each of these short presentations, we're going to open up our virtual floor for some of your questions, because that's what this is all about today, is answering your questions. So what you can do is enter all your questions in the chat box at the bottom of the screen. And if we don't have time to get to all your questions, we're certainly going to follow up with you after the event today. So our first Q&A session is about virtual engagement best practices and is going to be presented by Allison Mason, Communications Manager for CMN Hershey, and also video and social media guru. Allison's going to share how many national partners engaged virtually and meaningfully with Miracle Kits and customers in 2020, and some engagement strategies we should all continue in 2021. Allison?
Thank you so much, Susan. I'm so happy to be here. I can't go on without first saying thank you to all of you. I have 2 miracle kids of my own, and I never miss an opportunity to thank the people who saved my girls' lives. So I wanted to start with that. Thank you. So we certainly had to get creative in 2020 to make it work in all aspects of life, but certainly when it comes to fundraising as well. And as we've said this morning, you guys really embraced that change, and we wanted to highlight some of the best practices that we saw from the last year. So it's clear from these photos that not even masks, social distancing, and minimal contact procedures could stop you and your teams from giving your all to raise funds for sick and injured kids. Give you a second to take in all these great photos. We saw really creative coin collections. We had new roundup campaigns, t-shirt sales. I love that Ace hardware bucket display. And you really all became champions for CMN's cause while holding the front line during the pandemic. I think that's really incredible that, we talk a lot about the hospital caregivers being on the front line, but you guys were too, and we are just so grateful. So in true social media trend fashion, how it started versus how it's going, we know that you love when the Miracle Kids come to your stores. We love that too. And in February 2020, right before COVID, we were still making those visits happen. And even though they weren't able to be there in 2020 after the pandemic hit, we made sure that we were engaging with your stores through videos, emails, and text, social media posts, and more. For example, you can see that Gettysburg Walmart photo from February. We celebrated them as the top store from 2019 with a party, a check presentation, and a visit from Miracle Child Maya. Fast forward to July 2020, about 4 months into the pandemic, and Leanne's team at the Walmart in Hanover couldn't meet Maya in person. But they decided to wear tutus in her honor as they collected donations from customers on Tutu Tuesday. And then, of course, Maya heard about that and she wore her own tutu, and that sort of side-by-side photo we were able to share on social media. So it was sort of interactions like that that took everything to the next level. And you can see on this slide, we also did a lot with artwork. So we had Miracle Kits do drawings that were specific to stores. And in a little bit, I'll show you where you can access some of this artwork to share with your partners or your associates or your customers as well. Some of our kids also did some fun little video clips. So here's Addison.
Hi, Walmart. Thank you for helping kids like me.
Yes, so short and sweet, but it's always nice to see a smiling face from one of our kiddos. And really, when we can't be together, video is the next best thing. We did our best to share as much video content with our partners as possible, like thank you messages from the kids, campaign kickoff messages, well wishes from CMN staff and hospital leadership, and even recaps of successful fundraisers. And then we also engaged our families to send you chalk art messages. So one of our kiddos, Owen, who was our champion from last year, he did tons of videos for us to share with all of you. He was born premature and ended up with a life-threatening infection and had to undergo many surgeries and spend a lot of time in the hospital. But when it came to 4th of July, he was all smiles.
Thank you for supporting Children's Miracle Network. Happy 4th of July weekend! Woo! Da na 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 na. Hey, hey.
I don't know how you can't not smile when you look at that. So cute. And then some of our families, like Joella and mom Jeanette, who we just met, they were able to visit a few partners in their area in a safe way. Joella, of course, did some of her own chalk art, as you can see there. And her local Sam Club even dubbed her as an official member of their team and mailed her her very own Sam's Club vest and name badge. Love that, so cute. So whether you've received a visit from a Miracle family or simply share a child's story through video or poster, educating your team about the very children that are fundraising for this is the #1 way we can help you increase employee engagement and to keep them all motivated during the campaign. So here are some other ways that you can utilize Miracle Child stories in all forms. You can hang posters and stories in your employee break room. Just lay a few copies on each table or post a miracle story by the time clock. You can work with our team to invite a miracle family to a virtual team huddle or call, or share a Miracle Child video during a meeting. Same thing goes for that artwork. Emails and texts from a Miracle Child or a CMN team member. Each touch point that you share with your team, big or small, makes fundraising more relatable and personal. You can kick the engagement up a notch and share Miracle Child stories with your customers by posting content like Aiden's collage that you see here on the screen in any customer-facing areas, and tie in an ask from an employee to drive it home. Another employee engagement best practice is sharing kudos to associates with awards and recognition. This came up in our networking COCO meeting earlier this morning. How do we recognize our associates, who are working so hard? So pictured here is Costco associate Scott, who works at the warehouse in Lancaster. He was one of the top fundraising associates for week 1 and 2 during Costco's September 2020 campaign. So the CMN champion at his warehouse recognized him with certificates and shout outs and shared his photo on social media. This best practice is proof that a public heartfelt thank you always goes a long way. And we'll show you in a couple minutes where you can download and print those certificates, so you can do that at your locations as well. And as we saw from Owen and Joella, Sidewalk Chalk definitely had a fun moment in 2020. This shout out goes to, again, Leanne and her team at Walmart in Hanover. They held a Chalk the Walk fundraiser during Walmart's summer campaign. Customers donated $3 for a bag of chalk to decorate a sidewalk square outside the store. And since 1823 was the #1 store in our market for this campaign, they received as a prize a visit from a chalk artist and a friend of CMN Hershey, who drew the beautiful chalk art that you see there pictured at the right. This gesture served as both a thank you to the customers and to the employees. So it was sort of our way to say thank you, and what a creative way to raise money in 2020. The next customer engagement best practice is to harness the power of social media however you can. So many of our partners, again, especially Walmart in our area, were super active on social media. They're lucky that they have social media accounts for some of their individual locations. And we loved seeing everything that you were doing and then resharing that content on our channels as well. So if you have the power to do this, sharing this type of motivational and endearing content on your social channels will definitely encourage your supporters and your employees to support your efforts. We want to make sure that you tag us on social media as well. So you can see our handles there. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. That's the easiest way for us to find the content that you're posting and then repost it. So with all the CMN hospitals in the network, there's lots and lots of CMN pages, but you want to make sure that you're finding the one that is related to here in Hershey. And one more customer engagement best practice we wanted to share comes from Dairy Queen and Palmyra. They teamed up with a local dance studio and held a distance dance fundraiser. Participants made a donation to dance, and $1 from every blizzard sold that day went to CMN. And Miracle Child Owen and his mom, who are from Palmyra, were able to get their groove on too and participate in that event. So if you're thinking at this point, okay, these ideas seem pretty cool, but I don't know where to start. I don't know where to find the stories, the certificates, the ideas, all of that. So we're excited to share that you can find many of the resources we just mentioned on our brand new National Partner Campaign Central landing page on our website, cmnhershey.org. This will serve as sort of your one-stop shop to all of the CMN resources you can need, and you can download and print and build your arsenal of CMN assets that will resonate with your team. So here's what it looks like. You can see those Zoom backgrounds are on there. And then we have under Penn State Children's Hospital, you have facts about the hospital, posters that you can print, our logos. A lot of you like to plan events and aren't sure what logo is current. You can find those here. And then under general fundraising resources, we have some other things. These ask register cards. These are great to put right at your register to remind you to ask a customer. We have those certificates that you saw earlier. We have that artwork. So we uploaded a bunch of general materials that aren't specific maybe to a certain partner so that you can download and print them. We do that often and frame them and give them to associates who are doing outstanding work. We have a thank you video from our Miracle Kids that you can use. We have that thank you graphic with kids holding those letters for you. We have that 4th of July message. You can definitely reuse that this year if you didn't use it last year. And then tons of resources related to Roundup and why it's such an effective way to fundraise. And then we have this whole section that we're building out for virtual engagement. Those ideas that you're all looking for as we head into another year where a lot of things still have to happen virtually. And then as you scroll down, you'll find some miracle stories. Of course, we have Joella's story there as our champion, and you have another miracle story. And then you'll see links to both our full library of print and videos for Miracle Child stories, as well as Dollars at Work. So here's where if you don't have a specific child, maybe that you have a relationship with, you can still come here and download any of these materials and use that to engage with your customers. And I have to give a shout out to Susan and her team at JPL because they helped us produce many of these amazing, amazing videos like Joella's that you saw earlier. And I think if you don't see something that you need, let us know. So in our group earlier, someone said, I'd really like to have a 30-minute loop of these stories so that we can just have it running in our break room. We can do that. Or maybe you have 5 minutes to give a presentation. And so you need something really short. You can't use a 5-minute video. Well, we have videos as short as 30 seconds to a minute. So we'll continue to keep this site updated with all the resources that we can to make your fundraising easier and more effective. And of course, highlighting all of these wonderful kiddos and the things that we fund. So I just want to say one last big thank you to the partners that we've highlighted here, and thank you for thinking outside of the box, and thank you for giving kids the gift of growing up. Back to you, Susan.
Allison, thank you. That was great. We want to encourage people now to put some questions in the chat for Allison. And while you're putting your questions in, I just have to say that Campaign Central page is wonderful. What a great way to pull all those resources together. I think that's just going to be so helpful for all the partners who are on this call and many more who are looking for ways to pull that content in to make this even more meaningful for all their associates as they do their fundraising. And the video that you showed from Dairy Queen makes me laugh. Did you happen to recognize or see, Allison, that Owen actually did that dance in flip-flops? Did you notice that?
I didn't see that, but that doesn't surprise me.
I don't know why it stood out. It just jumped off the screen. And yes, I think he could have done that barefoot. He has so much energy. So it was
pretty
fun
much up for anything.
Yeah.
He's such a happy. Actually, I've never met a kid happier than Owen.
I
Considering
know.
all that he's gone through.
Yeah.
That goes for a lot of our Miracle Kids. It's just amazing to see their bravery and their perseverance and just, they amaze me and inspire me every day.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just listening to their stories and how, I don't know, heartfelt they are and how articulate these young people are, it is really inspirational. And I know we have a couple of questions. So Liz, do you want to share with us what people are asking for Allison right now?
Yes, so the first question that's popped up is, how can I get a Miracle Child champion assigned to my store?
So you just need to contact us. So if your main contact is Erica, then reach out to her and we will try to align a family who is even in your geographic area. So we often find that our kids shop and get their medication and all of that at your location. So we can definitely try to match you up with a family who is in that area. And if we're not able to do that, again, we can point you in the direction of some of these resources that you can use to, fill that gap and make sure you still have Miracle family content for your stores.
What do I do if I don't have permission to post on my company's social media pages? Was one someone emailed me.
I can take that one, Liz. Thanks. So yes, I understand that probably a lot of you, have that situation where you may not have access to your company's larger corporate social media pages and things like that, and that's totally understandable. Something that you can do, and you may have seen that resource on the Campaign Central we were scrolling through. You can set up your own donor drive page, so essentially a virtual peer-to-peer fundraising page, and you can share all of the wonderful. You can upload videos and photos and information about what you're fundraising for. You can upload all of that to your team page, and you can share that on your own personal social media page. That's certainly a workaround that you can try to still share what you're doing for CMN with your family, your friends, your coworkers through your own social media pages. We understand there's barriers to everything, but there's if you're willing to work with us, there's almost always a way around those barriers for sure.
Great. And the last question was, can we provide template posts for us to share on our social media pages?
Yes.
That's a great, oops, Allison, go ahead. I was just gonna say, somebody actually just asked the same question in our Cocoa and Conversations call, so absolutely.
Yes, we can definitely do that. And if you have other ideas like that, please pass them along. If you're asking for it, there's a good chance other people could benefit from it too. So that is something that we'll work on and put on the Campaign Central site.
I'm going to toss things back to Erica now with CMN to lead our next Q&A session about the power of Roundup. Erica is your go-to resource for all things related to your in-store point of sale fundraising efforts for CMN. She is going to be joined by fellow CMN Hershey Advisory Board member and Walmart Market Manager, Randy Mummert. Randy's going to share how his market stores really knocked it out of the park in 2020 during Walmart's first CMN campaign featuring Roundup at the register. Erica and Randy, you're up.
Thanks, Susan. Yes, any of you who have known me for probably even a couple of months, you know that I am a Roundup enthusiast. It is the way to go with in-store fundraising. So I would say if Roundup had, kind of a nickname or a superpower, it would definitely be the small but mighty point of sale powerhouse. Though Roundup at the register only raises cents on the dollar per each transaction, and that may not seem like much up front, it really is the way of the future with point of sale fundraising. And, make no mistake, there's definitely still power in just pennies. So I'm guessing that most of you probably are familiar at this point with the general concept of Roundup. There are a lot of companies who hold Roundup campaigns for not just Children's Miracle Network hospitals, but other nonprofits as well. But just in case you're not familiar with it, the general idea, for example, a customer's transaction total or the receipt total comes to $7.50. An awesome associate asks that customer if they would like to round up their total to the nearest dollar and donate that change to Children's Miracle Network, or better yet, to Penn State Children's Hospital. And, in an ideal world, the customer willingly agrees and they donate a 50-cent miracle to Children's Miracle Network. And Roundup can and has been configured for self-checkout kiosks as well to facilitate more of an automated ask. So that's generally how Roundup works. In terms of who is utilizing Roundup and already having success, there's quite a few national partners, especially in our market, who are using Roundup already. So the Giant Company holds two-week in-store campaigns. Just this past year, they incorporated Roundup at a significant level and saw some really great fundraising because of it. Our friends from Walmart, Randy and his crew, had Roundup as part of their campaign this past summer for the first time and also had incredible results. Ace Hardware historically holds a Roundup campaign in April or the springtime, and then also one around the holiday season. They can turn the function on any time of year that they choose. Loves did a really cool roundup campaign from August to October of this year. And for each dollar associates raised, they earned 1 golden heart point that they could redeem for prizes, which was something really unique. And then a handful of Dairy Queens have held roundup campaigns in the past, kind of at their discretion. And then Speedway is also, they're not on here, but they're working on, they've piloted some pin pad or roundup campaigns in the past year, 18 months or so. And I think they're looking to sort of enhance those efforts in the coming year. So it'll be exciting to see what happens there as well. And the stats around Roundup, speaking to the effectiveness of these campaigns, the stats really speak for themselves, and the fundraising potential. So those partners that were just on that last slide, and probably some Speedway numbers in there as well, raised over $800,000 last year in just Roundup alone. So thousands and thousands of 25-cent transactions, 50 cents, 75 cents, in a period of about 120 days total, if you add up all of the days of these various partners Roundup campaigns. And hopefully I've done my math right, but that breaks down to over $6,000, almost closer to $7,000 raised per day per location, which is in just coins, which is just incredible. We realize foot traffic patterns are very different per your locations, and especially given the events of this past year. But no matter how you spin it, Roundup is the way to raise a lot of money in a short amount of time. And then to give you a little consumer insight, because that's always helpful, given that many of you are in the retailer industry. So one of the biggest benefits to incorporating Roundup into your in-store fundraising is that it is almost like the most preferred way for customers to donate at point of sale, as was recently found by a company called Accelerist, who is a leader in social impact partnership technology that we've been working with a little over the past year. Generally speaking, consumers appreciate the opportunity to donate and round up, especially at point of sale. And it does have an overwhelmingly positive effect on their shopping experience. So if you look at some of these stats, 97% of consumers feel positive or more neutral about the retailer after donating. 84% actually like being asked to donate at the end of a transaction or having the opportunity to do so. And 78% will likely continue shopping at that retailer because they were given that opportunity to donate, and they appreciate that. And really, in some form, every statistic on this slide is helpful or encouraging and good to know. But I want to draw special attention to those two in the top right-hand corner. That the number one reason consumers donate at the register is because they feel passionately about the cause, or the cause is important to them. And then a quarter of those consumers want to know more about where their donation is going after they make it. So that's kind of all the more reason to print those Miracle Child stories that we just reviewed in the awesome Campaign Central page, to share more of those stories, print them and post them in customer facing areas as you're able to do so, to continue to paint this picture of the local families your customers are helping when they round up. And then a few more consumer insights. No matter what age group you're talking about, really, they all prefer to round up at the register, especially when they're asked by the cashier. And the second preferred method of donating is adding $1 to the bill, but Roundup is still number one. And then kind of the bottom two preferred choices were being asked to donate through the pin pad, so kind of that less personal ask, and then being asked to purchase an icon, were the least preferred methods. And in the last 12 months, at least 94% of all consumers ages 18 to 54 donated in some way to an in-store retailer fundraising effort, whether it was through rounding up their purchase or through making a donation through a product purchase. But many are actively donating at the register. And then the last few consumer insights that I wanted to share. This slide sort of breaks down those giving preferences a little bit more by age group, so you can see, you can compare them in terms of sort of the channel that they prefer to donate in terms of in-store or online at point of sale. So the majority of 35 to 54-year-olds prefer to donate in-store at point of sale, so that in-person connection, in-person donation, where only 36% of 18 to 34-year-olds, so more of that millennial group and younger, they prefer to give at point of sale online, which is to be expected with what else we know about this age group. But that hopefully just gives you some food for thought as companies continue to build out their e-commerce platforms and incorporate donation softwares or opportunities to give at point of sale, just sort of where we're headed to, but still helpful to know who prefers to do what. And then just to cover a couple of those sort of glaringly obvious benefits or pros to holding a Roundup campaign in your stores, it is truly the easiest ask for employees to make. I imagine, I can say that I haven't done it myself, but I imagine from feedback I've heard that it's more comfortable for employees to ask customers to round up as opposed to giving $1 or $2 or $5. And customers seem to prefer to give that way. So there's been a lot of research done over the past few decades how buying something for 99 cents is easier psychologically than buying something for $1. So that research definitely helps to build up the case for Roundup. There's no paper icons with Roundup. It's fast, it's simple, it's low contact, it's familiar to a lot of people now since so many companies are doing Roundup. So people kind of know to expect it at times. And it just drives home the concept that small individual donations equal a huge fundraising group potential. And you can see from my math equation here that if, for example, you had 7,500 customers in your store, each of them rounded up once at 50 cents at the register over a 2-week period, you'd raise over $52,000 in just that effort alone, which is pretty incredible for such small donations. And given all of the positives to Roundup, and there are many, as we've just covered, there can be some cons that you would run into, or we're calling them today problemtunities for Roundup. I want to definitely acknowledge that, that you can experience roadblocks. It happens. So a couple of those you might have run into at this point. Your POS or point of sale system may not be configured for Roundup, and that does often happen at the corporate level. Another problemtunity, it may not make sense for your industry for how you fundraise. You may not be in the retail space. We have national partners who are outside of the retail space. So if you're in the hospitality industry, or you're a realtor with Remax, or you, as we saw with our retail support center, your bread and butter for fundraising is employee giving or payroll deductions, Roundup just may not make sense for you. And then lastly, customers may not know who they're rounding up for. That may be playing a role into them saying yes or no. So we hear you with all of these if you're experiencing them, and we don't want you to worry because we do, have some solutions or workarounds that we can share. And even if you're experiencing another issue that we're not covering, come talk to me. I'm happy to sort of brainstorm ways around that we can, help you pilot a Roundup campaign in your stores. There's a lot of ways we can try to make it work. So just know that moving forward. But a few solutions to some of these problemtunities. If your POS system is not configured for Roundup, you can, as your first workaround, you can go manual with a conversion sheet that you may or may not have seen was an upload under that Roundup category on Campaign Central. There's no math involved, there's no calculator. So it takes a little bit of familiarizing with your team, but a little practice, and it's a really helpful tool for a essentially manual Roundup campaign. Another solution could be a little bit more time consuming and requires a little bit of research, but you could, reach out to your IT department or third-party processor and just see if they would be willing to donate their time or resources to try to figure out how to add a Roundup capability if it's not something that's currently being budgeted for. You could reach out to a higher up within your organization, noting that you're really interested in possibly piloting a Roundup campaign at your location. You could even do it manually and maybe even offer to report back with your results, sort of continue to build the case for Roundup within your company, and just sort of keep those conversations going. If the problemtunity that you're running into is that Roundup just doesn't make sense for your organization, a couple of solutions you could try would be to organize a simple coin collection, either customer facing or employee facing. You could get really creative with that. I've seen a couple Walmart stores around Halloween, or even all year long, have a Feed the Monster coin collection jar. So they decorate it like a monster, and little kids, love throwing coins into it. And even employees have fun with it too. You could also have Penny Wars, kind of an internal facing coin collection with different departments or units. And another solution is that that's just okay. And acknowledging that Roundup, though it's amazing, will not work for 100% of our partners. So you can still apply that same principle of many small donations equal big fundraising potential with any of the initiatives that you move forward with. And then lastly, kind of a really quick fix for that issue of customers don't know who they're rounding up for. Just work with your staff to really drive home an ask that sounds like, would you like to round up and donate your change to kids at Penn State Children's Hospital, and post that local signage. Continue to drive home that name of our hospital. People know Penn State in central Pennsylvania. They're familiar with our hospital. So use that to your advantage for Roundup. And then if you are already holding a Roundup campaign and you just sort of want to know some ways to kick it up to the next level, you can try a few of these best practices. Again, one of the resources under Campaign Central, we have some flyers, and they are our When You Round Up, Kids Grow Up flyers. So this is an incredibly powerful tagline to describe what folks are able to achieve through Roundup. Those stories show a before and after picture, essentially, or a before and current picture of a lot of our Miracle Kids to show where they've come just from people making donations like Roundup. So you can print those and hang them in your stores. You can and use competition. You can host a Roundup Register Rumble where an employee or an entire store team, if you manage more than one store regionally, could be rewarded if they reach the highest percentage of transactions rounded up or the highest number of transactions rounded up, even dollars raised if you're able to track that kind of activity on your point of sale system. So, and then finally, share impact stats wherever you possibly can. There's no donation too small for an impact stat. So, for example, 49 cents raised through a Roundup gift could equal 1 micro preemie diaper for the smallest patients at Penn State Children's Hospital, or even provide some stickers for kids to decorate their oxygen masks as they're preparing for to go under surgery or another procedure. So no matter the gift, we can always share those impact stats. So at this point, I would love to introduce my good friend and CMN Advisory Board member, Randy Mummert. Randy and his crew of stores in the central Pennsylvania area had a phenomenal campaign this past year, and Roundup was added as an element. So Randy, if you could sort of just share with us your thoughts on how that first Roundup campaign went, the difference you think it made in overall fundraising, maybe how your store and store teams felt about it, and anything else you'd like to add. I'll turn it over to you.
Right. Thank you, Erica. Appreciate it. And obviously the pandemic, and we really sat down and thought about how we're going to go about this year from a touchless environment, and how can we raise more money than last year, or at least do something to be proactive so it doesn't do it. And Roundup was the easiest form out there. And we really worked on just communication with our cashiers, communication with the customer, as well as Erica says, getting the signing out to let the community know the money's staying local, but also let them know how to do the Roundup part too as well for it, whether it's through the pin pad that we had in our stores, whether it's through our self-checkouts as well. A couple of our cashiers are very spirited, whether wearing different hats or bells or whistles, things like that they did to engage the customer and have fun with it, kind of drove that message to our customers as well. And then a couple of our stores and their associates are very competitive with each other too as well. So they always want to outdo each other as far as raise more money than each other. So a lot of things were kind of organically driven within stores and within associates too as well to do that part. But it really started with just simply the ask. And that was the part that we had to work on the most, is getting our cashiers just to ask the question, do you want to round up or do you want to donate to CMN? And then making sure they could speak to what it was saying to. And a lot of times some of the newer cashiers could read right off of the signing that was there to kind of inform them about the Miracle Child or where the money is going local, because that was asked a lot during the Roundup too as well for us. We also leveraged our digital platform, as Erica leveraged it. Sometimes you can't do it to pin pad, so it's kind of dump the cup. Some of us took approach. So like a lot of us have a cup in our car, something like that. We put our loose change in. And as people went to the curbside to give their groceries or a pickup item, they just asked them to dump their cup into a bucket. And as far as donated that way too as well for us. Some of us also have filled the bucket back in the lounge area too as well, to see if they get to a certain line on a bucket with how many change they could bring in to fill the bucket up as well. So a lot of stores just found a very organic way to do it, but it's also the most profitable way to raise money for CMN that we've found too as well. And it's the quickest dollar amount to get there too, is that we raise money faster through the Roundup process than we had in the past, where we did a lot of hot dog sales and we even did a couple stores try to do golf tournaments, but there's a lot of expense involved in a lot of that right now. And it made it a lot easier for us to just ask the customers to do a Roundup. But it really became a lot of fun for the team. They saw a lot of success with it, because it was you get an update every day to see where your numbers at to do as well for it. The cashiers could see it on their transaction too, what they're doing. So it was really, really powerful in the stores, and they had a lot of fun with it.
Awesome. Thanks, Randy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Clearly an awesome year for Walmart.
They did a great job. I'm really proud of the team and what they've done, and even including the other retailers that have done the Roundup that I've also shopped as well to contribute to. It's a very seamless process.
Right.
It's the less friction part of it. And as you said, customers are so much willing to give that roundup part of it just because they know it's a couple cents. And it's amazing how 10 cents or 50 cents or even a penny rounds up or adds up over a couple of days or weeks in your stores. The customers are in stores shopping.
Absolutely. Susan, we'll turn it back to you and see if there's any comments in the chat box.
Yeah, I think Liz has something. So Liz, what questions do we have for Erica and Randy?
Yeah, a lot of great information about Roundup. And somebody said that they're interested in a manual Roundup campaign, but they don't know how their staff would feel about conversion sheets. So they asked if you could recommend a way to get them comfortable with those.
I can take this one, Randy, if you have anything to add to my answer. I would just say I understand that it could, it's a kind of a foreign concept. The conversion sheets show cent by cent. If you have kind of the cents on the transaction of a customer's purchase, it shows the corresponding amount right next to it, what that roundup donation would be. But it certainly takes some practice getting used to. So I would just maybe recommend, see if you can find one person on your team just to sort of try testing it at the register, or a champion of a manual roundup. You could offer an incentive, I guess, for if you could get, if you got one of your associates to maybe do a manual roundup for 20 customers, if they hit that 20 customer, just getting them used to doing it, you could offer a reward for that. So I would just say add gamification to it if you can, make it fun, make it a competition to get things up and going, and maybe the rest of your team will be more excited and more willing to get on board.
I can tell you from experience-wise that we've used the sheet, the conversion sheet, and we find us a very select group of cashiers, whether it's one or two, and it's amazing what one or two individuals can do for a store. That how much money they can raise in a single transaction over a given period of time. But as Erica said, like gamification, I like that, the words that you kind of put on the words. That's kind of fun with it. But there's a lot of good things you do that. But it's really engaging in one or two cashiers that you have, or one or two Salesforce associates that can really go after it and really just engage the customer and really understand the conversion chart. But it is a little more problematic, but it does find an individual that really is excited about it, can really make a difference for your store or organization.
Liz, I think another question just came in.
Yes, are there any resources for smaller impact stats, so under $25, kind of like what you shared with the diaper? It says to help show what smaller roundup donations can be put towards.
That's a great question too. So we can, we have, I would say, compiled at the moment less stats for the smaller donations, but we can certainly find more. So that's something that you think would, more of those, like those micro, like the, what it takes to purchase a micro preemie diaper. If you think stats like that would be, effective for your teams, we can certainly work on compiling more of those and upload them to the Roundup resources under Campaign Central.
We're going to wrap things up with our third, this is your choice for Q&A session of the morning, fundraising in a COVID world. And more than half of you identified this as a topic of your choice for this morning. So we're really thankful for that feedback and helping shape the session this morning. And we hope that this will be really, really useful for you. So Erica is going to come back again, and she's going to be joined by a friend of CMN Hershey, Kate Carrillo, who's Senior Market Director with the Children's Miracle Network Hospital's Northeast team. And they're going to share some insights from across the network. Erica and Kate?
Awesome. Thanks again, Susan. Yes, so you all identified this as being important to you, which makes perfect sense. And you're essentially looking for a roadmap kind of moving forward as you continue fundraising while COVID is still going on. So hopefully this will be a little helpful to you in terms of that topic. So, 2020 introduced a lot of new catchphrases to us all that we've begun using in daily conversation, words we never thought we'd use like that, like isolation and quarantine, crises, social distancing, pivot. So this visual word cloud is sort of my interpretation of how heavy and confusing last year felt at times. And I'm sure that all of you can personally relate to this and would even maybe, add your own descriptive words to this, for what marked the year for you personally. And through it all, our miracle kids in our program and many other kiddos in our communities continued to need urgent care and procedures at Penn State Children's Hospital in the midst of the same pandemic. So our messaging last year focused heavily on kids can't wait for the healthcare that they need. And we urged our audience and our supporters to donate however was possible for them and however made sense to them in support of this very specific call to action. And, just because we've turned the page to a new calendar year, this sentiment still holds just as true now as it did then, if not more so. So pandemic or not, local kids who are sick and injured still need our help. And I think that keeping that call to action at the forefront of any fundraising efforts that you do moving forward this year will really help infuse a sense of purpose into your fundraising efforts, campaigns, anything you choose to do. That will be your driving force behind your efforts for CMN this year. Kate, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Erica. Again, my name's Kate, and I have the privilege of working with the Penn State Children's team, who are fantastic, as you all know. And I just want to piggyback off of everything that you've already heard this morning. But thank you for your commitment to making a difference at Penn State Children's Hospital, your local CMN hospital. So that being said, we heard many examples from Allison's portion of the Q&A, but really what could go virtual did. So here's a couple of examples where we saw that. We saw the DQ 5K or a race that became virtual. We know that there's been a lot of golf tournaments that have been virtual, trivia nights, things like that. So that being said, we saw a lot of success in all of that. There's some strong value-based reasons that people donate in the midst of COVID, and knowing that children's health is selected as one of the top 3 causes, I wanted to highlight that. These are motivators for your donors and great talking points to motivate your team, because we hear that people want to help others, people believe in a nonprofit or a cause, and they want to do the right thing. And so knowing that children's health is one of the top selected causes that donors lean into wanting to support, those are great talking points when talking to your team.
We wanted to cover a couple recommendations for COVID fundraising pivots for you if you haven't already tried a few of these. So obviously in-store shopping looks different with plexiglass and masks and 6 feet spacers on the floor, things like that. But there are a few workarounds you could try. So if you haven't tried these already, you could print 1 or 2 of those turnkey materials from the Campaign Central page. And if you're permitted to do so, post a few of those directly on the plexiglass dividers. You can allow employees, again, if possible, to have a little fun with art therapy and maybe decorate a section of that plexiglass with a thank you message to customers with dry erase markers that can be easily wiped off. We've learned it's really hard to communicate with masks on at times, and often hard to tell if someone is smiling behind the mask. So if your register employees receive a donation of any kind, you can encourage them to show their gratitude in other ways, like giving a thumbs up, or they can raise the roof, or they can do jazz hands. They can do their own personal happy dance. Anything goes here, really, as long as it's safe and the customer feels appreciated. You can get employees excited for an upcoming campaign. You can consider putting together a really simple or basic t-shirt or mask decorating kit. You can include a plain mask or shirt, some markers, some fabric paint, whatever you'd want to include, and encourage them to decorate those either in the break room or on their own time with messages like, I'm a hashtag miracle maker. Kids can't wait, support today. And then they wear that item on a day during the campaign, on day 1, whatever you choose. And you could even hold a contest for the best design. And then, of course, thanks to all of the minimal contact procedures, the QR codes are having a resurgence from their 15 minutes of fame a couple of years ago, where they didn't really catch on like people thought they would. But essentially, the code at the bottom is a sample of that. You use your smartphone to scan it. This doesn't link anywhere, so you don't have to practice it. It's just a picture. But you would scan this code, and it would take you to a designated website. So no hassle of having to type in a web address, essentially. So CMN's national office is researching how these QR codes might be integrated into national partner campaigns or kits in the future, and sort of just seeing what the potential there is. Like, wouldn't it be awesome if when a customer donates at point of sale, there's a poster right there that has a QR code that they could scan and instantly learn more about a miracle child who's being helped by a donation that they just made. So Kate, I think you had a couple to add here as well.
Fun ideas that I heard through best practices from what we experienced for campaign execution in 2020. One funny one that you'd have to have some pretty humbled people to be able to do it, but is an ugly knees contest. So taking pictures of willing knees of employees and then putting them in the break room and award a prize to the most votes for matching the knees to the owner. So I thought that was creative, weird yet creative. And then another one that I think is a super easy one to implement, because all of your employees are very talented people and they all have hobbies. So, build on that. So ask employees to share one of their expertise, whether that's, doing some sort of art class or teaching about a skill that person has, and use that as a way to raise money. So by the employee offering their services, not only are you building their confidence and their leadership skills within the store, they're also able to raise money by allowing people to make a donation to opt into learning more about that skill. So those were two of the ideas I had, Erica.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate. I appreciate that. Yeah, a lot of good ideas across the network for sure. So I think one of the most efficient ways and effective ways you can help aid your stores and fundraising in the coming year is to really put a huge focus on fun. This last year has been so stressful for us all, especially for your teams. So we want the CMN campaign at your store to be a bright spot, to be a highlight for them and something they genuinely are looking forward to as it approaches. So, how do you create a bright spot with all of the fun things you can think of through things like gaming and competition and prizes, incentives, surprises, if your folks like being surprised, parties, decorating, music, dancing. And these efforts can be as simple or as complex as you have the time or the bandwidth to do so. So a few ideas to make things fun for your team. Actually, in Cocoa and Conversation this morning, one of our Walmart said they're already using Register Associate Bingo, which is phenomenal. But if you're not, this is a way to keep your employees engaged for every single transaction as they ask customers to donate. As you can see right here, and you can download this card from Campaign Central. And another idea, offer incentives as you're able to do so. Maybe a manager has to wear a crazy hat if an employee reaches a certain amount raised. Maybe a store is willing to do to match an employee's fundraising efforts if they're the top employee for that day or that week. You could coordinate a TikTok dance just as something fun for your teams to do if they hit a goal in fundraising, or could build a fundraiser around that. People pay to see you all do a TikTok dance. You could just talk to your teams and see what would be the most fun for them ultimately. And then in terms of keeping the purpose at the forefront of your campaigns, you don't need grand gestures here, just lots of consistent daily touch points. So you could share a miracle moment at either a daily meeting or a call or a weekly call or meeting, and just, constantly be sharing those stories. You could, leading up to a campaign, ask each employee to watch just one Miracle Child video or Dollars at Work story from Campaign Central. They could report back to you when they do so on the honor roll or another system you would track that with, and they could be put into a prize drawing. You could ask an associate to share if they have a personal connection. That's always a huge motivator when one of your own has been helped. And you could also just always bring things back to the fact that good health is a gift for all of us. It's going to be hard pressed to find someone who hasn't worried about their own health or the health of a loved one, in the past, this past year with everything going on. So you can really find ways around that for sure. And, make it work for you and bring things back to COVID and how our hospital is caring for pediatric patients who have been diagnosed COVID positive.
So focusing on empowerment, the artwork here on the left, I'm very, very impressed with how artistic Miracle Kitty Vinny is. But really, this image really says it all. You guys are the heroes. Oop, did we lose the? You guys are heroes, and you guys make such a difference in the lives of so many kids that you're impacting locally that get treated at Penn State Children's. So just wanted to start there. And similar to frontline hospital employees who were, having really long hours, who were trying to make a difference in providing the best care possible in the midst of COVID, you also are frontline heroes as well by making sure that we all, as civilians, felt safe going into your stores and shopping, really having to deal with shortages, coin shortages to toilet paper shortages, and really making sure you're still providing that customer service. So we just really want to thank you first and foremost for that, and thank you for continuing to be heroes on the front lines as we continue to overcome this crazy time. That being said, we want to make sure that on top of you guys all being heroes in the day-to-day work, to also use the CMN campaign to bring out heroes in your stores. Empowering your employees to make a difference. And those were some ideas. Erica, if you go back one slide there, there's just a few ideas there on how you can do it by making sure the ask is at the forefront, by encouraging peer-to-peer nomination and recognition for great work to help the CMNH campaign. And then just really making sure that your employees know that this is a way that they can implement some control in their day-to-day lives while still making a local impact. Next slide, Erica. So some key takeaways with this. So we want to make sure that you guys are able to take back to your teams that fundraising is hard, especially in a COVID world. So we want to make sure that we implement and help support you guys in implementing that fundraising should and could be fun, meaningful, and empowering. So if you use this diagram to the right here and kind of see where there are some holes that you could build upon to create an even better environment while you're implementing the campaign and executing it, there's definitely some ways that you can do that by thinking through some of the examples we just provided you. We also know that asking at the register for a lot of your associates can be intimidating. We get that, but we want you to really be mindful of encouraging your employees to ask at the register, and understand that a no doesn't necessarily mean a flat out no. It could just mean no, not right now. On top of that, you're going to get a no 100% of the time if you don't ever ask. So that's the way I always try to encourage associates when I have the opportunity to visit stores. So really by encouraging your employees to ask, having them ask, you're creating an opportunity for your customers to opt into something really great and making it such a fantastic local impact to one of the top charities. So in a word, 2021 brings us a lot of these different words, right? But we believe we can move forward by sticking together. We know we're going to change kids' health and ultimately change the future, one point of sale transaction at a time. So words like hope, healing, miracles, and so many more are marking 2021 for us.
Those were great takeaways. And I do like this word cloud a whole lot better than the 2021. So I think all of us will be inspired by those words and look for new ways to be even better and more impactful with our fundraising this year. Everything this morning has just been so thought-provoking. We hope that you were inspired. We hope that you have some takeaways and some great things to get you started. We're going to wrap up our 2021 Virtual Miracle Maker Summit program with huge thanks to all of our presenters and our special guests who helped celebrate your achievements as CMN's national partners. And we hope that we got you thinking about new ways to be even more impactful in this year and going forward in 2021. We also want to say a big thank you to all of you for joining us this morning and for all that you do for CMN. Remember, you are all superheroes for helping our local sick kids and injured kids. And CMN could not do the life-saving work that it does without you and all of the work that you do every day. So huge thank you. So on behalf of everyone who played a part in this morning's summit, including our CMN advisory board members, CMN staff, our miracle kids and our families, thank you for being a miracle maker and joining us in our work to give local kids at Penn State Children's Hospital the gift of growing up in 2021. And now we are going to leave you with a final video to inspire you for today and hopefully carry you throughout the year. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for giving me the gift of growing up. From Owen. Thank you.
Gracias.
Say I love you.
I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I have you.
Thank you, Children's Miracle Network. Your donations allows me to do one of the things I love to do, ride motorcycles.
Kennedy has had several brain and spinal surgeries at the Children's Hospital, and we want to say from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for all that you guys do for us. The things that you do and the money you help earn gives my kid the gift of growing up.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.